Hey creators, today I have a tutorial for you on how to edit short form reels for the purpose of social media marketing. I will be using Capcut for PC. I believe there is no better tool for new creators and even old creators or experienced creators, excuse me. There is no better tool than Capcut because of its ease of use and its robust features. I will be showing you my actual workflow that I use to make my own personal reels, my own business reels, and how I make reels for other businesses that I work for. So when I'm making these videos, I try to understand what the mission is. And Rodney, just to give you some context, he has a digital templating service, and his target audience are glazing professionals. Can utilize his service to help them measure jobs accurately. That is the service, and so that is the message we're going to try to convey. It helps to know that before you even start. I did actually go to Rodney's office and I shot talking head stuff of this specific job that we're about to edit. And there you go. Here we go. Step one in the process is to organize all your files in one place. And what I'm going to do is create folders for each one of these cameras, and I'm going to stick them all into a project folder so that when I bring it into CapCut, it's all in one place so I can bring it all in at once. And another thing I'm going to do before I even start importing footage or opening the file is I'm going to go into Epidemic Sound and I'm going to download some tracks that I think will go well with this video and maybe some sound effects. And I try to get all of my assets together, organized in folders before I even start. I went ahead and pulled together all of my files and I saved them into this folder. It has all of my different cameras that I used. It has they're organized by folder. I have sound effects, audio, music, because music is important, and of course I got the logo. I got everything in here. So this isn't really necessary, but once you start making more than a couple of reels, you start losing track of your footage. You start losing track of a lot of things. So it just helps to just get in the habit of getting organized right away. So once we have all our assets in the folders, the next thing to do is to go ahead and open up CapCut, and we're going to go ahead and create new project. Now, once I open a new project, I'm immediately going to go to modify. I'm going to give it a name, and this is going to be my client plus the address. The aspect ratio, I want this one to be made specifically for social media reels. So that's going to be an aspect ratio of 9:16 so that it fills the entire screen of a cell phone when it's being viewed. And this is important. So all of my cameras, I always have them set up to 24 frames per second. Whatever frame rate you record in, you also edit in. And for social media, a lot of people like to use 30 frames per second, in which case all your cameras should be set up to 30 or 60 frames per second. I leave this resolution as adapted. This color space, I leave it at Rec 709. This arrange layer, I just leave that there. I just leave that checked. What that means is as you start to edit and you want to add things in between the layers, like let's say you have, like B-roll on top and A-roll just below that, and you want to add a text layer or a graphic in between the layers. So this checkbox right here allows you to insert those in between your layers. So I'll go ahead and hit save. Now, once we have our video set up exactly the way we want it, we're going to go ahead and import all the footage. This is where our previous work of getting all the footage into one place comes into play. And now we can go ahead and import. Now from here, I can just go ahead and navigate back to that folder where I have everything saved. And so I have my folders, and the folder that has all of my assets, everything is in this particular folder. So rather than going in and importing one at a time, I'm just going to go ahead and double click this folder. And what that's going to do is it's going to import everything. So from here, I'm going to find the talking head stuff that pertains to this job, and I'm going to start with that. Now, once I have all my footage imported, the very first thing I'm going to do is import the talking head stuff. This is because this is the context that's going to drive the video moving forward. So we'll go ahead and import all of our A-roll, if you will. That's why they call it A-roll, because it's the main driver of the video. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and fix up that sound. So I'll go ahead and select the video, and I'll use the CapCut features to enhance that voice as best as I can and get the sound sounding as good as I can, moving forward. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want to go ahead and put some love into it. Okay, so this is my main talking head I'm going to start with. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and I recorded this in a landscape ratio. All right, so you can see when it imports, it's going to be the landscape. This is how it comes in when you push the import button. So what I can do is I can grab these little corners and I can drag them until the ends kind of snap to the end of the screen, or I can do the same thing with this slider bar off to the right. So once I have this centered up about where I want it, the very next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select that clip, and I'm going to touch up this audio. So a couple of things I like to do is reduce noise, enhance voice, and normalize loudness. So if you look down here on the timeline, you can see that there's some peaking going on here. And so what we want to do is, you can see the peaking in orange on this waveform, is we just want to bring this waveform down so that the peaking just barely disappears, and that's usually about perfect. So once I have my audio just the way that I want it, I'll go ahead and start chopping it up. And what I mean is I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of the dead spaces, and I'm going to go ahead and watch it and rewatch it a couple times over again. And I'm just going to kind of decide what makes sense in the order that he says things. And of course, I'm going to chop out the stuff that is non-essential. So I'm just going to try to keep in mind what the point of the video is. And I'm going to try to keep the audio in there and the talking head stuff in there, only the stuff that matters most to the message that we're trying to convey. And I'm going to try to chop this down to be less than 60 seconds. 45 seconds would be even better. But that's step one, is just get your talking head stuff, cut out all the stuff that's not essential, and then move on to the next step. Okay, audio sounds good. This video clip is 5 minutes long, so I'm just going to run through and I'm just going to chop up just the parts that we need. So really quickly, before I even get started, I'm just going to show you how this works. So this is my main talking head timeline. I got the audio fixed up. I got the scaling, filling the screen of the screen, my little player window up here. So what I can do is I can bring my player head and I can leave it wherever I need it, and I can hit Command B. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a cut right where that player head was. And then I can create multiple cuts as I start chopping this up. And one thing I can do to speed this process along is I can hit Q or W on any of these player windows. So for example, if I wanted this first clip to start right here where the peak of this audio is, I can put my player head right there. I can hit Q to delete everything to the left, and I can move my player head this way, and I can hit W to delete everything to the right. So this is just a quick way to delete stuff that you don't need. So what I typically do is as it's going, I'll just kind of put cuts, and I'll immediately delete stuff that I know that we're not going to use. And then once I have the meat and potatoes left, I'll come back through and I'll start deleting all of the dead spaces. So here's an example of a dead space. Without even listening to the audio, I can see where there's nothing happening, because you can see there's nothing right here on this waveform. So what I typically do is I come to the end of that waveform, which is a sound, hit Command B, and I can move my player head over here to this waveform where it starts, and I'll hit Command, or I'll just hit Q, and it deletes. And then you have that nice little jump, so there's no delay in the audio. All right, so I'm gonna go through and chop this up, and then we'll move on to the next step. Did I mention how much I love Capcut? Capcut is sweet. I used to use Final Cut Pro. I used to use LumaFusion, but Capcut is by far more robust than LumaFusion and easier to use than Final Cut Pro. I don't have a background in video editing, but I'm super confident, so much so that I have clients now that pay me to do this. And I got there by watching the Master Capcut class by Trevor Jones. And in his class, he breaks it up. I think it's 5 hours of footage. Takes about 3 days. He breaks it down real simple, provides footage for you to follow along with the edit. And after taking his course, I'm super confident in doing this. And I loved it so much that I reached out to him and asked him if I could be an affiliate partner. He said yes, which is pretty sweet. And by the way, this is my first affiliate. So if you want to take this Capcut stuff and your video editing stuff to the next level, especially if you're not if you don't have a background in video editing, there is no better course than Master Capcut by Trevor Jones. So link is below. Thank you. Let's get back to it. After I have everything chopped up in logical order and the message is conveyed, I'll go ahead and start importing the B-roll. Now the B-roll can be footage from any camera. It could be stock footage out of a CapCut, or it could be anything. So the point of the B-roll is to add context to the A-roll. So I try to find parts of the video that are relevant to what's being said at the time. So as he's talking about stuff, it'll show what he's talking about in real time, just to keep the video interesting. And then of course I can cut back and forth from the talking head to the B-roll, or I can just use mostly B-roll if it makes sense to. My main talking head is all done. As you can see, I cut out all the dead spaces and I kept only the parts that pertain to the message that we're trying to portray. So I've watched this several times. I kind of understand what's going on here. I think I'm going to go ahead and get this logo with the transparent background, and I'm going to drop it up here. So you see how this B-roll on the upper layer is overlapping the A-roll. So this kind of gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. So I can go ahead and take this logo and I'm going to resize it. And I'm just going to leave that right there for the time being. And then I'm just going to try to overlay as much A-roll as I possibly can. Okay, so I think to start, I'm going to go ahead and import some before photos and then some after photos right after it. I thought that'd be a nice touch. Yeah, I like this one right here. So let's put this one. So you can see that when I drop the photo on there, its native aspect ratio is 2:3. So I'm just gonna stretch that out so it fills the screen. And then from there, I'm gonna jump to the same picture from the same angle right afterward, which is pretty cool. So you can see that because I have these pictures on top, that these are B-roll and they are given priority on the timeline. So you can still hear his voice.
This project we measured on standoff.
Okay, so I can see that this upper layer has some audio, so I'm going to remove that audio. Okay, and I'm just going to keep it going, keep overlaying the A-roll until I'm happy with it, and then we're on to the next step. So last but not least, I like to import effects, transitions, and logos. So this is the part that that's like the funnest part in my opinion, is to add transitions, effects, and logos, and sound effects, of course. So I like to find places where it makes sense to use a transition. The transitions usually, I try to match the motion that already exists inside of the clip. And then of course, for every transition, you got to add like a whoosh or a swish or electricity or whatever it is that just makes sense. And this is something that a lot of people don't really notice. Like they're not gonna call me one day and say, dude, those sound effects were awesome. I know it's just something that adds to the video. Like the video itself, it's going to be interesting, and people are going to want to watch it. They're going to want to stay watching it, and they're not going to know why. It's kind of like the same stuff that Hollywood does. They use composition, they use lighting, they use storytelling, they use motion graphics, and they use sound effects, and all these things combined create a cinematic experience. And that's the level of videography I'm trying to bring to my clients. Okay, so now that I have all my A-roll dialed in and my B-roll dialed in, the next thing I'm going to do is just add some effects, transitions, music, and sound effects to basically top it off and make it interesting. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an effect to this red line logo. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to animation and I'm going to click on this mouse click.
Hi, I'm Roundy with Red Line.
So you can make the animation longer or shorter by sliding the style right here. And what I'm trying to do is have the mouse click happen right when you says red line, which is the name of the business and the logo itself. So right away, so I don't forget, right when that mouse click happens, I'm going to come over here to audio and I'm going to go to sound effects. And I'm just going to type right here in the search bar, mouse click. So what I can do is go ahead and hit this plus button and the mouse click is going to land at this music layer right below my video layer. And we'll just play it back and make sure it's in sync. Oh yeah, you see how the sound effect just adds depth? And it's a little too loud, so I'm going to bring it down just a touch because it shouldn't be distracting. It should just add to the overall vibe. So right off the bat, these two still photos, I'm actually going to add some animation to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this first one and I'm going to go ahead and with the video tab selected, I'm going to add a keyframe near the beginning. And then I'm going to move my tab to the beginning or to the end. And I'm just going to scale it up just very slightly. And what that's going to do is it's going to have the picture move. So it's not just a still photo.
This project we measured on standoffs.
And then what I'm going to do is the same thing. So I'm going to select this again and move the keyframe to the end points. So I like to add my keyframes like just before the beginning or after the beginning and just before the end, because sometimes it's hard to pin the key points right where you want them, but you could always grab them and slide them. And on this next photo, I'm actually going to put my playhead here. I'm going to select the track and I'm going to go ahead and add a keyframe, but I'm going to start zoomed in and then I'm going to move back and then I'm going to zoom out. So it's like the first one zooms in and the next one zooms out. Okay, so here's an opportunity to add a sound effect. You can see the guy running the saw as if he's making a wood template for glass. So again, I'm going to go to the audio tab, sound effects, and I'm just going to punch in wood saw and see what happens. Oh yeah, that's good enough. And I'm just going to go ahead and slice off the end here so it matches the clip. We'll listen to it back.
Correct. There's no need to make a physical print.
All right, so I think this is a good opportunity for a transition. So where this frame is like moving down and then it transitions to this frame moving out. So I think this is a good opportunity to add an out transition. Pull out. So I go to my transitions tab, type in pull out. So I got to drag it and drop it right there. Okay, so that's good. I think I'm going to extend that transition out.
Manufacturer misses the whole.
Yeah, I like that. So like it kind of zooms out, and as it zooms out, the camera itself is moving backwards, and that kind of just adds a cool little dynamic. I'm not gonna get too crazy with transitions because the point of this is to be informative to the target audience, but it doesn't hurt to have one or two. And of course, anytime you have a transition, it's a very good idea to add a sound effect. And so I'll come here to sound effects, whoosh with echo. Okay, that's it. So I can see this waveform. What I want to do is line the center of that waveform up with the height of the transition, right? You can see it's peaking right there and it's right in the middle of the transition. And I'm going to bring that volume down a touch and we'll just play it back and make sure that it sounds correct.
Manufacturer misses the whole.
I imported a bunch of music tracks already, but I just want to find the one that just feels right with the vibe. I often don't even know which vibe I'm going for until after I have the edit put together. So I'll go ahead and import that music, and I'll make sure that the volume is not interfering with the audio of the talking head. And that's actually another trick that you can use to kind of mask if you don't have the best talking head audio. When you overlay that music, it really helps you not notice the highs and the lows, if you will, or the noise. I think that's it. So now we're going to go ahead and add some music. So I already imported media. So I'm going to go to my folder where I saved said music. Yep, I like that one. All right, so the music shouldn't be too distracting, just a little vibe in the background. I'm gonna come up to the slider and I'm gonna drag it down to -24, and I'm just gonna play it back and hear how it sounds.
Hi.
Okay, good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and cut that music off right there. So being that this is a reel for short form video content, after I have my A-roll, my B-roll, everything just the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and add some auto captions. Now auto captions just help keep the viewer's attention if they're watching the video and it doesn't have audio. And of course that's kind of the standard thing you got to do with reels. I do make short form content that's in square format that has no auto captions, and I think that works because it's more cinematic. But for reels, it's meant to be played, in places like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn Shorts, and of course YouTube Shorts. And that's just the standard thing you do here. Okay, so I got this about perfect, just the way I want it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add auto captions. What I'm going to do is up here in this tab, there's this captions button. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to go ahead and generate. It's going to take a second and you can see that it has generated auto captions. Looks like it did a pretty good job. I'm just going to run through and double check that everything is correct. So right there, boom, I want this to start. So now I'm going to go ahead and select this first one and I'm going to go to text, and I'm just going to find the text that I think works well. Let's go to templates. So Capcut has a bunch of free text animations, and they have a bunch of pro ones too. So the free ones work just fine, but I really like this one where it really only shows one word at a time. So I think I'm going to go ahead and yeah, cool. So now that is applied to all of them, I'm going to go ahead and go back to basic, and I'm going to want to scale this up so it feels more of the screen. And we'll just see how that looks. That's almost a little too big. Let's scale it back down. Yep, too big. I was tripping. Don't be tripping like I am. That's why it's good to test it. So it looks like the text is filling the screen very nicely. And I feel like this white bold with the black bold background, it's easily visible whether the background is white or black or anything in between. All right, that's it. Okay, so once it's all wrapped up in exactly the way I want it, I'm gonna go ahead and export. Now, when I export, I'm gonna go ahead and navigate back to the same folder where all the footage is stored at. So all the files for this one job are stored in one place. And right now they're stored on my desktop so that I can edit them quicker. But as soon as I'm done, I'll go ahead and offload these onto my Google Drive, so it's not taking up space on my 1 terabyte MacBook. So the export. So my clients, the clients I go after, they typically post to LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And so when I export, I'm going to go ahead and export 2 different copies. One copy, I'm going to name it 2K right in the title, 2K resolution, because I find that LinkedIn accepts 2K. It looks really good on LinkedIn. It looks better than 1080. I guess that's subjective, but I find that 4K doesn't work on LinkedIn at all. It's just too much for the platform to handle for some reason. For Facebook and Instagram, I find that 4K is appropriate because yes, Facebook and Instagram are going to compress the video, but I find when I upload a 1080p video or a 2K video to Instagram specifically, when Instagram compresses it, it doesn't look as good as when I upload a 4K video and then it gets compressed. I have no idea why or how. That's just what I found from, uploading many videos. So that's just a piece of advice. If you're exporting to LinkedIn, Facebook, aka Meta, I like to export a 4K file. Now that I have my video exactly perfect the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and export. And so what I'll do is come up to this export button. I'm going to navigate to the project folder where all my other files are saved for this project. I'm going to create a new folder. It's going to be called 11 Vista Exports. Now from here, I'll select open, and now the file path is saved. And I'm going to first upload this as a 2K file. At the end of the file, I'm just going to name it 2K. So I remember this is the 2K version. Again, this is going back to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the only format where I upload 2K. Otherwise, everywhere else I upload 4K for the best quality possible. Everything's set the way I had it, and so I'll go ahead and I'll hit export. Okay, so the very last step, and this is important, this is something that I kind of realized I need to do. So I'm editing on my studio display, which has really good speakers, so sometimes it's misleading on how good it really sounds. So what I always do is I open this same file from my iPhone, from the iCloud drive, and I listen to it on the speakers of a cell phone. And if something sounds kind of janky, I'll go back and adjust it before I send the final video. So once I've watched it on my phone and I'm happy with everything, I'll send a copy to the customer. Well, he'll approve it or he'll request changes. Hopefully he loves it the first time and we're good to go. Otherwise, whatever changes he wants to make, it's usually pretty quick to make those edits. And then when I resave the files, I name them, V1, V2, V3, however many revisions there are. And then when we finally come to an improved version of the video, I can then go ahead and proceed and upload these to social media. Now, what you want to do is go into ChatGPT and write a very clever and meaningful message to convey what the video is about, and simply ask ChatGPT to rewrite this for LinkedIn, rewrite this for Instagram and Facebook, and it'll basically give it a professional tone for LinkedIn, or it will give it, kind of a more fun tone for the other platforms. And you could also prompt it to explain what the main point of the video is. Like, start with the point that we come to you to make this template, and does its magic, gives you your stuff, and then you can go ahead and copy and paste that and post these onto your LinkedIn or social media platforms or your clients' social media platforms. And that is it. That's all I got for today. So I'll go ahead and show you the final product as of right now. The video that we just edited together, here is the final product. Enjoy. Thanks, guys. Peace. And don't forget, check out that link down below. Master Capcut class, masterclass. Highly recommended. Thanks. Peace.
Hi, I'm Rodney with Redline Templates. We offer a full templating service where we come to you. This project we measured on standoffs. Most standoff jobs can feel very daunting without endpoints of the glass and without the standoffs in place to have a physical template. We take the guesswork out, design it in CAD, make sure all the joints line up, and ensure that the corners overlap correctly. There's no need to make a physical template. We provide hole locations for the standoffs without the need to dry fit the glass and mark the holes while holding the glass, which can be very dangerous. We provide centerline locations of all the standoffs and show you where to drill. To make this job even easier for the installers, we utilize the adjustable standoff from QRail. It adjusts in any direction because no matter how perfect the template is, if the manufacturer misses a hole, you have some alignment. And remember, accuracy has no limits.